Yes, good afternoon, everyone. What I wish to touch on today, there have been a number of presentations on all the wonderful things that we do know that we can achieve in St. Lucia. And we are very fortunate that a lot has been achieved by a number of persons. However, we do recognize the shortcomings that we face, both in research and innovation, in not just science, but also with regards to social sciences, with regards to the arts, with regards to culture. We've also heard of the many efforts being made, the amount of research into identifying how can we do better, and the many efforts being made for us to improve on this. If I'm to focus on our education program, because the question begs, why are we not more innovative? Why is it with all the research as to how we can improve on our productivity and innovation, we are still failing to do so? Why is it that we seem to know where we want to go? We even know, to some extent, what we need to do, and yet it is not happening. We can also ask the question that we are putting certain efforts forward, but we do not seem to be getting the desired results. I lecture at the South Louis Community College, and I therefore find myself engaging with young persons who, for the most part, we believe are the cream of the crop. They have been able to overcome many of the challenges that several of our students are facing, in that they've been able to reach this point of tertiary education. However, when asked to take the first step, to step out of the box, to develop research ideas and innovation, these same students who have achieved so much are either, and in the past I said they're unwilling, but sometimes, or right now, I question, are they able to do so? Are they able to think independently from what they are fed by the lecturers, or by the books, or by the television, or by the internet? And so we ask our students, or we ask ourselves, why is it that students who have reached this stage of tertiary education are not able to think for themselves, are not interested, it seems, in research, and are really very content to sit back and absorb information and then to regurgitate it? And what does that say for our society? How are we going to address the many problems we are facing, some problems that we've not faced in the past? And it means that we need to have persons who can think on their feet. Where are we falling short? So I look back at the students and I look back at the education career, and I have listened to the past speakers who speak about all that the Ministry of Education is attempting to do. And yet we have students at tertiary level that we have a science fair and I ask for persons to step forward. Here you have the opportunity. I will provide you with the resources. What are you interested in finding out? What problem are you interested in fixing, or at least exploring? And I get no students. But when we look back at our young persons, our 7-year-olds, our 8-year-olds, our 5-year-olds, who are full of the need to ask questions and to explore, they have so much enthusiasm. And then they go to school, and yes, for a lot of them, except the privileged few who may go to private school where there are only 10 in the class, but for most of our young people, they are sitting in a class with 35 students and one teacher who has, from a mandate by her principal, who has a mandate from the Ministry of Education that so much must be achieved in this period of time. And your success will be measured by how much your students can regurgitate in an hour on a piece of paper. And therefore, this 5-year-old, 6-year-old, 7-year-old, with all the interest that we want to see in our tertiary level students, is told to sit and be quiet whilst I pass this information on to you. Take a paper and pencil and write it down. Go home and study it. And tomorrow when I come in, you have to have the capacity to regurgitate it for me. And the child who is interested in, when I am teaching one-on-one, he wants to know how does a bird fly, is told that you are being a nuisance and you have to sit and be silent. And the child who wants to know why are some people respond to a social pressure in one way whilst others don't. They may not be able to articulate this, but they're curious, but there's no one to either answer the question or to encourage them to research it. And so from this age, our students are told that you have to be quiet and regurgitate, learn and regurgitate. And our education system judges you based on this through the common entrance and then all the other exams the student faces in the secondary and primary and tertiary schools. Therefore, it means that with all due respect to all our great luminaries that are here right now and all the others, we have a situation where everything that we are hoping for is really based on a foundation that we have persons who are curious and are interested and have the capacity and the resources to do research. But this is not the case. And therefore, all our well-meaning recommendations likely will not take place, and that we will have another knowledge fair in 10 years, and all of us will be here again making the same recommendations and have not achieved anything. So what do? I think we need to start encouraging our children to play. We need to encourage our children to explore. We need to have innovative labs. We need to have playrooms in our schools from very young. We need to cut this humongous program of work that we are asking our young children to do. I have friends with kids who are 7 and who have to cram, who need to know who is the prime minister of every country in the Caribbean. My goodness, why are we doing that to our children? And these are the same children who can barely read or write. We need to change this and make 30% of the school day playtime. Let the children go out and explore. Let them ask questions. And yes, one may say, but who's going to do it? Because we have one teacher for 35 kids. Well, we need volunteers. We need trained volunteers. Maybe we can lean on our Peace Corps, our Japanese volunteers, so that we have persons to man the labs. And therefore, and I'm saying a lab, but we're talking about kids that may be interested in the social sciences. Put them on a bus, bring up kids and bring them out. Let us reduce the workload of our students when they are young, and let us encourage them to think for themselves. Let us change. We've been saying it for years. I know that the ministry is really looking at the common entrance and all the other exams. Well, you need to stop looking and you need to act. We need to make a difference from the time young people are young. Let us let our children ask questions, explore, and let us not judge our children on how many questions they can get right on an exam. It pains me every common entrance when the common entrance results come out. And so many people are praising the kids who are passed for St. Joseph's Convent and for St. Mary's College. And I think of this poor child who's not academic, but curious, and who got maybe 30% in the exam. This child is forgotten. This child is told that you not going to make it here. And therefore, it is not surprising that our children, when they get to tertiary education, and when they leave Sir Arthur, because our program of education is the same, when they leave and they go out into the world, and an officer from Lucia says, we have a problem on the line, and then our student who got fantastic grades needs to go and check a book or his phone to get the answer because he cannot think. And then we are surprised and we are saying the schools are not producing what we need. Well, you are correct. We are not producing. But until we find a solution and we start from small, we will continue not to produce. We do have the few that, despite the poor system, do achieve. So we do have the Parry husbands, and is it Mr. Noel, and we have those who are here today, that despite the limitations, you've risen above it. But very few students are going to be able to follow in your footsteps. So those of you in the private sector, because the Ministry of Education cannot do it alone, the Ministry of Education cannot afford really to put an innovative lab in every school without the input and the stepping forward of the private sector and our businesses. So my final words are that we do need to see a change, and a change has to start from very young, but we do need a lot of support from the private sector to make it happen. And we do need the persons in the Ministry of Education to themselves step out of the box and start to look at real solutions to the real problems we face. Thank you.